Case of former President Jacob Zuma and French arms company Thales. The state will today argue why both parties must stand trial on charges of corruption, money laundering and racketeering. Our reporter Ayanda Mhlongo is live for us in the KwaZulu-Natal High Court in Pietermaritzburg. She's outside there. Ayanda, always a pleasure talking to you. Let's start with what you're seeing outside this High Court. Busy morning or relatively quiet?
Very good morning to you, Blaine, and good morning to our viewers. Well, Blaine, ever since this case started on Monday, we're seeing less and less support for the former president. I mean, you remember in the first appearances in Durban and when he first appeared here in Pietermaritzburg, when the matter was moved here to Pietermaritzburg, by this time there would be a couple hundreds of people that had gathered. But today it's still very quiet. As my colleague Tulani is just planning, that is Freedom Square, where it's designated area for all the supporters to gather. And as you can see, there's only the stage is already now set for the supporters, but there's no one inside. I can't see not a single ANC t-shirt. There is, I must say, a heavy police presence around the court precinct. Access into the court, and particularly the courtroom where the matter is being heard, is restricted to those people that have been approved, having been given accreditation. As I said, a lot of police around here ensuring that only those that are attending that case or have been given permission to attend that case are allowed in. We were speaking earlier on to Mr. Nkosa Nchashezi, who is responsible for mobilizing the support for the former president. He's saying that today they are expecting crowds to gather outside, but due to financial problems that they had, they weren't able to get the numbers that we previously saw would come out here to support. Blaine, another question that we asked in terms of the leaders of the ANC in the province and former leaders. We've seen a number in the past of high-profile members of the ANC in particular would come out and support the former president, and this time we have not seen that large number. The gallery would be full of his supporters, but this time around, and his response to that was there's a lot that is happening with the opening of parliament and the provincial legislatures as well, that a lot of these leaders would have to attend those first sittings. So that is why there hasn't been a lot of support, and we will hopefully, as the day progresses, Blaine, try to catch up with the ANC just to get from them why here in the province we haven't seen many of their leaders. And I must say, Blaine, not all of them were attending the legislature sitting, but we will have to get from the ANC why they are no longer coming out in their numbers to support the former president.
Well, now to matters inside court, Ayanda. We've heard from Mr. Zuma's legal counsel already. What stood out for you? What were some of the salient points raised?
Yes, so Blaine, on Monday, as you remember, the defense team led by Advocate Moses Kakane making their submissions before the full bench here. And one of the main arguments that they have made was the delays in this case, largely putting the blame on those delays on the NPA, also raising matters of the issue of political interference in the case, and even going as far as to read out transcripts from the spy tapes to support the argument that there was a political interference in this matter, going up to the highest office in the land, while not mentioning the name of the former president, Thabo Mbeki. The day two, we heard from the defense representing the French arms company Thales. They're led by Advocate Anton Katz. First point that they wanted the court to hear was the review of the decision by the NPA to even charge or reinstate the charges against the French arms company. Then again, also, they also went into that another of the arguments, very common to that of the Zuma defense, was with regards to the delays in the matter, saying that prior to 2009, yes, they might have also been party to the delays, but after that, solely putting the blame on the NPA. And one of the words to sum up what Advocate Katz was saying in terms of their defense is that they feel that the state was hell-bent, or the NPA rather, has been hell-bent on prosecuting Thales. But Blaine, today the focus is going to be on the state lead counsel representing the state, Advocate Wim Trenggrove. He will be making their submissions on behalf of the state, and now joining me to explain to us what we can expect, what are some of those submissions that are going to be made by the state. I'm now joined by Advocate Makhosazana Mbonani. Advocate, thank you very much for staying with us. It's all eyes are going to be on the state today, just for the benefit of our viewers who may have just been joining us now. When we spoke on Monday and Tuesday, you said to us that both the defense are going to have to prove to prove to the court that the extraordinary circumstances exist for them to be granted the stay of prosecution. Just take us back a little bit and recap on the arguments that have been put by the defense, and what is it that they needed to prove to this court.
Thank you, Ayanda, and thank you for having me. Well, as we have spoken about this, what the applicants in this matter, so the accused in the trial, have to set out is that there is a prejudice to them because of this delay, and that the nature of the case demands that the stay be granted, and finally that the delays were not systematic, so that it was not outside the hands of the state. What counsel for the first accused, Zuma, pointed out all the irregularities and why mostly the blame should be on the states, quoting some words which we can infer that it was political interference and so forth. And something similar, we expected something similar from Thales defense, and we'll remember that what they focused on is the review application, and that they feel as though they were an add-on to Zuma, and that they were not given enough, they're not given an opportunity to make representations. And there was a back and forth there with the court as to whether there was a legitimate expectation on their part. But overall, what they need to show the court is that they have been prejudiced, and that the nature of the case demands that they be granted this order, and that it is invariably the fault of the state that has led them to these delays, and that it's unfair on them. Yes.
Today, the state will have to answer in its submissions. I suppose that they'll will be dealing with the matter of the delay. So that was probably going to be quite an important argument that the state is likely to make.
Yes, well, so the state is probably going to take the courts through the chronology of the events before the charge and to the point that we are at. All the interlocutory applications, the postponement applications by the accused, and the delay from the time that the matters were withdrawn and the time that they were reinstated. What they have to prove is that these were systematic delays, and that the burden is not, that the fault is not on the state alone, and that when the court has to balance these two, they have to find that the accused must stand trial.
Advocate, often and not, and I suppose, in criminal matters, we hear that the onus is on a certain party to make their point and prove. In this particular case, help us understand. This application obviously is made by the accused, Zuma and Thales. They have to make their point. In terms of the state, how much, what is their position? Theirs is just to respond, really, so there's nothing for the state to prove, really, in this matter?
Well, because this is a civil application, yes, it is the applicants are the ones that are supposed to make out a case before the court. So then if if at this point we assume that they have made out a case why they should be granted the order, then the state must then show the court that while all these factors are present, these are the reasons, and the accused are not entitled to the relief that they are seeking. So they must reply, but the one who is supposed to make out a case in an application are the applicants.
You spoke about the interlocutory application, then that there are 4 matters that the state is also going to be having to deal with. One of those is said to be new evidence that was brought in by Zuma, which the state wants the courts to strike out. Just help us for the benefit of our viewers and explain to us these interlocutory matters and how they fit in to the stay of prosecution application.
Well, the interlocutory you remember when the former president made applications to postpone the matters because he was not certain with his stance, with his finances, and who would be paying for his legal fees and all these postponements. But today there's going to be an application to strike out. You remember those parts about the spy tapes, those that were read out. Yes. It is probably going to be the position of the state that these do not assist the court in making its decision, and that they are vexatious because they do mention names of people who were involved in the decision making in the NPA. So it is not assisting the courts because they have to look at the NPA as an organization. Yes.
All right, Advocate, thank you so much for your time, and I know that you are going to be with us throughout the day today. So thanks once again for helping us there. Plain Advocate Makhosazana Mbonani. I understand, although I cannot see from where I am, but I do understand that the former president has arrived inside the court building plane, and in about 8 minutes or so, at 9:30, the judges did say the matter or the court proceedings should get underway.
Yeah, you have a good sense there, Ayanda. The former president, Jacob Zuma, has arrived and has taken his seat inside court. You've been monitoring him for the past couple of days. Ayanda, what's his demeanor been like?
Plain, the former president, as often as you know, is very jovial, appears to be very relaxed. And I think while in court, one of us cannot gauge how he's feeling. It always helps once he leaves and when he addresses his supporters, that's when we get a feeling of what his thoughts are, what he's thinking. And just to take from what he said on Monday, Plain, he felt very confident. He went in, spoke to his supporters and said that he's very happy with the arguments that were presented by his defense team, saying that he's employed the services of a very sharp, and this is the words that he used, very sharp, very experienced attorneys and advocates for this matter. And one of the points that he said, very interestingly, Plain, with regards to, and I know Advocate Mbonane just mentioned that, with regards to the spy tapes, he was saying to his supporters that some of it is news to him, that it's new information that there were certain people, even as high up as a former president, that were somewhat allegedly involved in this, and as he said, this plot to see, to ensure that he did not make it, or send rather, to the union buildings, and that he was blocked in 2007 from being elected as the president of the ANC. So hopefully today, Plain, as Nkosancho was saying earlier on, we do not know as yet whether or not, once the court proceedings are done, whether he will go out to address his supporters, and that's the time when we get to gauge how he's feeling, his mood, and from the things that he will say when he addresses his supporters.
Ayanda, thank you very much indeed. Folks, you are watching live visuals there of inside the KZN High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Ayanda Mhlongo, live for us in PMB. Thank you very much indeed for your reporting. We'll try to catch up with you a little later on.